Indiana football has already seen its recruiting skyrocket after winning a national championship, but now that the Hoosiers are becoming an NFL pipeline, that is a game changer.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day and the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. So thank you so much for making that so. Thank you so much for supporting this show. However that you do, some of the ways you can help us very quickly: subscribe to the YouTube channel, drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below, and follow us for those of you listening on your audio podcasting platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Well, we're going to talk some Indiana basketball later in the show because Indiana hosts Minnesota tonight in a game that the Hoosiers must have. If you want any chance to make the tournament, you cannot drop this game inside of Assembly Hall. Plus, speaking of the tournament, Indiana still considered the last team in, with Bracketology dropping yesterday. We'll talk about that and how the Hoosiers can change that. But we start with some football conversation on today's show, because as we have wrapped up the NFL Combine last week in Indianapolis, several Indiana Hoosiers were there. Some more should have been there, but we digress. It hit me that Indiana has all of a sudden, very quickly, become an NFL pipeline. And I think this is the start of something that the Hoosiers are going to build on for years to come. And it feels like the start of what Nick Saban built at Alabama. Now, I'm by no means saying that Indiana, at least for now, I think it's possible, but I'm not saying that they are on their way to winning however many national championships. He won 6 or 7 or 8 of them. I don't know. I can't keep up. He won a lot of titles down there. But I think what's even more impressive is the amount of guys that Nick Saban put into the NFL from Alabama. That's also what Ryan Day or any head coach is doing at Ohio State. That's also what Kirby Smart is doing at Georgia. And Indiana is quickly becoming that in just 2 years under Curt Cignetti. And I think that that is a huge recruiting tool, whether it's high school or the transfer portal, if Indiana can build a reputation of putting guys in the league. Because unfortunately, right, in today's era of college football and college athletics in general, but just college football for this particular conversation, a lot of the recruiting talks are, how much are you going to pay me? How much can you pay me? What's your NIL look like? What's your revenue sharing look like? What kind of deal can you cut for me, right? It's like trying to buy a new car and having to do the whole shuck and jive song and dance until you get to the bottom of it. And it's like, okay, what's the price, right? That's the question we're all asking. That's what the players are asking. That's what the coaches are asking. That's what the donors are asking, is how much is it going to cost? But I still believe that a talented football player in today's world, I think it's not a dying mentality, but I do think less players think this way. But I still believe that a big majority of high-level football players in high school and young college, their goal is still to make it to the pros. Their goal is to still be a full-on professional football player in the National Football League. And they want to go to a school, they want to go to a program, they want to play for a coach or coaches that can get them there. Again, that's why, other than the secret payments under the table behind closed doors, that's why Nick Saban and Alabama had so many great players and so many great teams, because they put them in the league. That's why Ohio State gets what they get. That's why Georgia's getting what they get. Heck, Dan Lanning and Oregon are doing it. And I think Indiana is building that here in Bloomington under Curt Cignetti. Look at the names that we just sent to the Combine this year. Doesn't even include the guys that went last year, because a lot of these guys came back for another season. But look at the guys who just tested out at the draft combine. D'Angelo Pons, Aiden Fisher, Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt, Pat Coogan. All of these guys are dudes who are going to make a difference in the NFL. And if you do get there, not to mention Fernando Mendoza, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft in April. So if these guys can get drafted and step into the league and then make an impact on their team, that will start to get around in these NFL organizations to say, man, you want dudes from Indiana. They know how to play some ball. They're good. They're talented. They're smart. They are educated. They are mature. They're not head cases, right? You want dudes from Indiana. Folks, that's a recruiting tool that not a ton of schools can use. And we were talking about yesterday on the show about the contract extension that Curt Cignetti just got and talking about that being a recruiting tool. Being an NFL pipeline is another recruiting tool that, again, not a ton of teams can use, right? Programs like Penn State over the years have put several dudes in the league. Programs like Texas is getting back to putting dudes in the league. But Indiana has never been that. But you can be now. Winning games on the field, winning national championships, and having competitive NIL is a great place to be for high school recruiting and the transfer portal, right? Because all these guys want to go to the pros, but having that one extra layer of a recruiting tool, of a recruiting pitch, is something that not a lot of people can compete with. And again, think about the names that I just read off. It's not just one position, right? This isn't the old school debates and conversations of, well, I think this school is quarterback you. Well, I think Ohio State is wide receiver you. Well, don't you worry. I think, Alabama is linebacker you. I think we're kicker you, or whatever the case may be. Indiana's putting every position in the league right now. Quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end, linebacker, defensive end, safety, corner, nickel. Indiana's sending everybody to the league. And all we need is some of these guys to start making an impact. Again, guys that went last year and these guys going this year. And that will be a growing trend. That will be your reputation as a program where NFL GMs want guys coming out of Bloomington. That's a recruiting tool to put in the belt of Curt Cignetti. He's got the Batman belt going on right now. He says, what weapon do I want to use today to go after this 5-star defensive end or this 5-star quarterback? I'll use you. And it's being an NFL pipeline. You come to Indiana, you're going to the pros. You come in to do what we tell you to do. You work for our coaches. We're going to get you to the league. We're going to win some games, compete for national championships, and you're going to go to the league. Why would you not want to be a part of that? Why would you not want to come to Indiana if you play any of these positions and be a part of what's being built in Bloomington? So I think it's exciting. I think the combine went extremely well for our guys that went. Excited for the draft coming up in just a couple of months. But that just kind of hit me last night. And I just think it's something that Indiana can add and build on and really be excited about. And you should be too as a fan, the idea that Indiana is now going to get some of the best players in the country because they know they can get to the pros by coming to IU. So add that to the list of things that Indiana is doing very well, and Curt Cignetti's got a stranglehold on. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we are going to flip to the hardwood because I don't know how. I don't know why, but bracketologists say that Indiana, by the slimmest of margins for basketball, is still a tournament team. We'll talk about the latest bracketology and the things that can or cannot happen for Darian DeVries right after this on Locked On Hoosiers.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated St. John's 85-49 on Sunday at Madison Square Garden, extending its winning streak to 47 games. The Huskies capped a perfect 31-0 regular season, including 20-0 in the Big East. UConn is winning by nearly 38 points per game, the third largest average margin in Division I history. Since 1999 to 2000, UConn has 9 undefeated regular seasons, as many as all other programs combined, and has turned 6 of those into national championships. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics, including Hoosier basketball, which we are still talking about and still able to talk about as we are in the final week of the regular season, which is kind of crazy to think about when you kind of put it in perspective. It's like, holy crap, you look at the calendar and it's already March. Holy crap, we're in the last week of the regular season. Oh my God, the Big Ten tournament's next week. Oh my God, we're a week and a half away from Selection Sunday. I don't know where the time went. I don't know where the season went. It feels like yesterday we were talking about the opener against Alabama A&M. Indiana was on a 7 or 8 game win streak, and it was like, all right, cool, everything's going well. And then the rest of the season has happened. We're going to talk about the game coming up tonight as Indiana hosting Minnesota. Senior night, final game of the regular season at home, the home finale tonight at Assembly Hall. We'll talk about that in our final segment, but I've got to bring up Bracketology that dropped on Tuesday morning from Joe Lunardi. And somehow, by the grace of God, I think, he still has Indiana as an NCAA tournament team. Now, it's by a slim margin, the slimmest of margins, because of the 68-team field, Indiana is team number 68. Your Hoosiers are considered the last team in to the NCAA tournament, according to Joe Lunardi yesterday. I don't see it. I don't understand how. I don't understand why. Because I read some numbers on Tuesday's show, right? Not having Bracketology yet at that point. And the numbers were what, 30 or 35%, something in there for Indiana to make the tournament, according to ESPN's statistics, right? But now that we have his Bracketology, he says that the last 4 teams in to the NCAA tournament, you need to hear this: Santa Clara, New Mexico, Ohio State, and Indiana. Now, it is actually in the order of Santa Clara, Ohio State, New Mexico, and Indiana. But my goodness, does this set up for something fabulous on Saturday? I don't agree that Ohio State is a last 4 team. And again, this is based off the games we just saw this weekend. Ohio State, I believe, was the first team out heading into the weekend, and they beat Purdue, and they weren't able to get off the bubble. I don't really understand that. That's one of their best wins of the season, if not their best win of the season. Heck, it's Indiana's best win of the season, right? A home game against Purdue, a home win against Purdue. I figured that would be enough for Ohio State to not be a last 4 in. Maybe a last 4 bye. Fine. That'd be okay. But now, heading into the final week of the regular season, you've got Indiana and Ohio State, the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes, both considered last 4 in. And of course, they're slated to match up on Saturday afternoon in Columbus for the regular season finale. Two things I don't agree with. One, I think Ohio State should be higher. 2, I can't believe that Indiana's still in, to be quite honest with you. For some reason, we did not get punished all that much for that loss against Northwestern, and that's just baffling to me. That is baffling that we did not get punished for a 4-game losing streak, losing to Northwestern on our home floor. Yes, we've technically moved down, but I figured we would have plummeted after the Northwestern game, and somehow we're still alive. That includes the game tonight against Minnesota, which we'll talk about in a moment, making that game a must-win. You can't afford a loss. You've got to go 2-0. You cannot lose at home against Minnesota. That team is terrible. A team that's already beat you, by the way. You cannot lose this game tonight. But then here we are in a situation that I have set up for weeks now on this show where it looks like Ohio State and Indiana will do battle on Saturday afternoon in Columbus, Ohio. The winner will be in the tournament, and the loser will most likely be out. Because tell me a world where you are 2 of the final 4 teams in the tournament. Tell me how the loser survives that. Who does Ohio State play? They play Penn State. Is that right? I'm looking it up right now. I think I remember that. Yeah, they go to Penn State tonight. So while Indiana's playing Minnesota at home, Ohio State's going on the road to Penn State. Now, the Nittany Lions are terrible. They're 3-15 in conference play. They're literally the last team in the league. So Ohio State is in a very similar situation as Indiana. a game that you can't afford to lose than a game that sounds like you also can't afford to lose it. But tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you disagree. And I would love for Joe Lunardi to give us a heads up on this, and maybe he will, right? I think we'll have a bracketology come out on Friday to where we'll know exactly where Indiana and Ohio State stand. But at least for right now, that's exactly what this sets up as. Ohio State and Indiana, winner is in, loser is out, as long as both teams take care of business tonight. If one of these teams or both of them lose, I think they're both out, and they should be. I think they both should be out. Minnesota sucks. Penn State sucks. Ohio State and Indiana are not great, but they're better than those two teams. And you got to win because your season's up for grabs right now. But man, how dramatic would that be? How fun would that be? How stressful would that be for Indiana and Ohio State to go after it Saturday, and the winner makes the tournament and the loser just misses the cut? Again, I'm baffled that Indiana still has a chance. And there's a legitimate argument that they shouldn't be. Again, a 4-game losing streak, losses on the schedule to Northwestern, Iowa, Minnesota, right? Teams that you just shouldn't lose to, but yet you have. And your net ranking still somewhat likes you. I think you've got, in my opinion, you have one legitimate win. God, it shows how big that UCLA win was in double overtime. You're getting a lot of credit for that. That carries a lot of weight right now. That win against Wisconsin is carrying a lot of weight right now because they are solidly in the NCAA tournament. The Big Ten's got 10 teams in, but that includes Ohio State and Indiana. UCLA is on the bubble. They're a last 4 bye. And then USC is considered the next 4 out. I don't think they make it, especially with Chad Baker-Mazara being kicked off the team. But that includes teams like Illinois as a 2 seed, Purdue as a 3 seed. Looking around here, a couple of other Big Ten teams hanging around. Again, Wisconsin is a 7 seed. Nebraska's a 3 seed. That's still wild to me. Michigan State back up to a 2. I think that's probably legit. Michigan as a 1. Are they no, Duke's the number 1 overall. Yeah, that'll probably happen. Michigan's a damn good team, though, I'll tell you what. But the Big Ten's going to be fine. But for Indiana, man, be thanking your lucky stars because I cannot believe you're still hanging on. And I've seen some people start to have this conversation, and I want to tap into this for just a moment. There have been some people, Indiana fans, that have said they would rather the Hoosiers miss the tournament to kind of crank up the heat and put on the pressure for Darian DeVries after his first season. And I understand where you're coming from. I understand the mentality there and the motivation behind that line of thinking where if you miss the tournament, you're going to hear it, you're going to see it, you're going to feel the reaction of the fan base and the donors and the athletic department, right? And maybe that'll kind of spark a fire a little bit and really force Darian DeVries and his coaching staff to take the job seriously. But folks, he knows what it takes. He knows what the expectation is at Indiana. He wouldn't have accepted the job if he didn't. Doesn't mean he'll get there. Doesn't mean he'll achieve it. I hope he does, right? But just because you know the standard doesn't mean you can reach the standard. But he doesn't need a kick in the pants to be reminded of what Indiana deserves and what Indiana demands. Really, missing the tournament is not a good thing. There's no way, at least for me, to positively spin missing the NCAA tournament. I'm not going to sit here and try to agree with that because I don't, but I at least understand the argument. But I want Indiana in the tournament. I want the Hoosiers to get there. That helps you in so many ways, from a mentality standpoint, a recruiting standpoint, a buy-in standpoint from the fan base and everybody involved. Missing the tournament, there's no positive spin to that. And what more could you ask for coming down the stretch before we take a break and come back and talk about Minnesota? What more could you ask for if you're the Hoosiers than the fate of you making the tournament? It's in your hands. You have every opportunity to go and take it. You've had that for 3 weeks now and you haven't done it, but now you have the chance to do it 2 more times. It starts tonight with Minnesota and this weekend against Ohio State. Let's talk about that game against Minnesota. In a game you should win. You're the better team. And at times, it may not even be close. But that didn't help you the first time. We'll talk about that game coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by TurboTax. It is tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar that you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing that your taxes have been handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that, though, that's the bucket list type of stuff. The hard part is always actually getting the tickets to those things, right? Long queues, prices jumping at checkout, and surprise fees that you just weren't ready for. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use, okay? The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price that you see. So what you see is what you pay. Period. So if you want to go to the game tonight, final game inside of Assembly Hall, if there are tickets available, you'll find them on the Game Time app. Senior night, final home game of the year, you can be there in person by using the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, final segment here on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers as we talk Indiana basketball hosting Minnesota. And this is a game on paper that most people on the outside looking in won't even know is taking place, won't even care that it's taking place, and they won't even look into it because to most people it doesn't matter. But for Indiana, on a day like today, with this game, with everything happening around you, right, all the bracketology talk that we just had, this is now the most important game of the season. It is. This is the most important game that you have played all season long. Were there more important games before this? Absolutely. Some of them you took advantage of and you won. Others you played like crap and you did nothing with it and you got embarrassed on the national stage. And that's okay. It is what it is. There's nothing that you can do about it up to this point. The only thing you can worry about is this game this evening. Indiana, Minnesota on the 4th of March inside of Assembly Hall. Indiana must win to keep your season alive. If you lose this game, you are out. You cannot overcome a loss tonight to Minnesota, who's 4-15, 7-11 in Big Ten play without one of their best players. You cannot overcome this loss. Even with a win on Saturday over Ohio State, I don't think it's good enough. I don't. You can't take 2 losses like this in a 3-game stretch and expect to be in the NCAA tournament. And I'll say it. You lose this game, you don't deserve to be in the tournament. There's an argument you don't deserve to be there anyway. But tonight, you can avoid the ultimate breakdown, the ultimate disaster by winning this game against Minnesota. Now, here's what's funny about this game. Mentioned earlier, most of you probably remember going to Minnesota and playing horrible basketball and losing this game on the road. Do you remember that this was the first loss of the season? Do you remember that? And we were just shocked. We were, just like, up in arms. We were like, what? What is this? That's before we knew the trends of this team and really knew what was about to happen. But that should have never happened. Indiana is much more talented than Minnesota. And I think at times Indiana is better coached than Minnesota. And I think you should be able to win this game. It's senior night, your final home game of the year in the hall. Go out there and take care of business. And I'm not going to make the mistake like I did the first time we played these jokers and say, just you're the better team. Just win. Just do what you do. Just play your game. You're going to win. This team doesn't have that ability. We don't know what the heck we're going to get tonight. But I'll tell you what we do know is Indiana, last time we played Minnesota, we let all 5 starters go for double digits. It wasn't just one guy that beat us. They all beat us, which makes it hard to kind of scout them and tell you what you need to know, right, from the first time to the second time. I don't think Indiana should watch any of that film from the first time, at least for themselves, maybe on some tendencies and trends from Minnesota to see if any of that is carried in through the last several weeks leading into this game. The dude you need to know is Cade Tyson. Pretty simple. He's their man. He's their go-to guy. He is their guard who averages 20 points a game. He averages 20 points, 5.5 boards, a couple of assists. He can shoot it from just about anywhere. You must keep a body on him. And I'm sure that'll be the job of Connor Enright. I'm sure Enright will have that job. Now, he's a bigger guard. He's 6'7". Okay, so maybe that's the job of I don't know. I don't trust Tucker to stay in front of him, that's for sure. So it'll probably be Connor. It'll probably be a group effort tonight against Cade Tyson. But you start looking down the roster, and I talk about all 5 starters last time having double digits against Indiana. Well, they've got 5 due to average double digits right now this season. But the major difference between game 1 against the Golden Gophers and game 2 against the Gophers tonight is their second leading scorer on the team, Jalen Crocker-Johnson, will not be available. He hurt his foot about a week or so ago, and he's out indefinitely, meaning he will not play in this game tonight. And last time you played them, hold on, I've got it right here. Last time he played against the Hoosiers, he had a solid game. 11 points, 7 boards, couple of assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. So he was a menace on the floor, was Jalen Crocker-Johnson. He will not be there tonight, okay? Cade Tyson had 17, hit a couple of threes, 8 rebounds, some assists as well. This Minnesota team will run. They can score when they want to, but Indiana is at home. Indiana's the better offensive team. And I think the Hoosiers are able to outscore Minnesota tonight. I don't expect you to get a ton of stops because Indiana's defense is putrid, but this Minnesota team has got some decent wins. They beat Michigan State several weeks ago. You remember that? I do. They're coming off a win against UCLA. So you could take that for what it is. They've run with a bunch of teams. They're good defensively. They'll slow the game down, and they find their playmakers. Indiana cannot fall into the trap tonight of being lazy on offense, taking a bunch of threes, not running sets, and hoping to shoot their way out of it. You will lose this game if you do, and your season will be over if you lose tonight. Find Cade Tyson, don't let him beat you, and run some actual offensive sets, and you probably have a good chance to walk away victorious, which would then set up a win or go home game, in my opinion, against Ohio State on Saturday afternoon. So, Indiana, Minnesota tonight. Unfortunately, I am unable to go live tonight. I'll be on the air calling high school baseball, so apologies there. We'll talk about it as quickly as we can and in certain ways as well. But Indiana's got Minnesota tonight. We've got some episodes coming up. I'm doing some traveling for work, and so apologies for what's going to be. We'll have content for you. We'll have plenty of stuff to talk about, but it'll be a little bit more scattered here and there, and we'll get all caught up as we can over the weekend and early next week as well. But we still have daily shows for you here on Locked on Hoosier, so make sure you subscribe. Follow us on your audio podcasting platforms as well, okay? Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.